So today I'm going to be talking about the list of the 5 top Paramecia devil fruits that I came up with. Even though it's going to play a really large factor, this list is not going to be completely based on combat ability, and it's going to have a lot of focus on utility and overall usefulness. In fact, the 5th fruit is actually a really good example of this, so let's just get straight into this shit. Coming in at number 5, we have the Tremor Fruit. Now, I know already people are going to be freaking out because, oh, you know, this one has to be the most powerful. It was Whitebeard's. Oh, yeah, that can destroy the whole world. No. Okay, first of all, I already said that it's overall usefulness, not just combat ability. Not to mention, I'm not really sure if that even is necessarily combat ability in terms of a one-on-one situation. There is also the problem that we have no idea whether or not some random-ass guy can do all the same shit that Whitebeard did. It seems pretty reasonable for me to believe that just because someone eats this fruit doesn't mean they can completely destroy the world in one shot just like that. It is, however, reasonable to believe that Whitebeard, after eating this fruit, is able to destroy the whole world or a whole island or whatever. I mean, seriously, it is not that hard to believe that even if he hadn't eaten this fruit, he would be able to one-shot an entire island. If Dofi's body can cause an entire upheaval after Luffy punched him out of the air, then I'm fairly certain that Whitebeard could do a considerable amount of damage to an island even without his fruit. But regardless of who eats the fruit, this fruit is pretty goddamn overpowered, so let's talk about it. So like I said, the AoE potential of this fruit is extremely high. Whitebeard could pretty much just hit his fist on nothing, and anything past that would just completely get annihilated by a shockwave. This has been shown to be extremely effective in completely destroying terrain and taking down all plebs, pretty much the same way that King's Haki does. This same ability has been shown to have awesome defensive potential as well, as it acts as a giant shield, stopping any projectiles coming its way. Whitebeard has also shown an ability where he can concentrate this power into a small area, which was shown one-shotting the giant Vice Admiral. I think it goes without saying that being able to one-shot any Vice Admiral, not to mention a giant, is pretty overpowered. And like I said earlier, Whitebeard is supposedly able to destroy the entire world by using the ability where he grabs the air and pulls it towards him, and this is the same technique used to completely destroy Marineford in one shot. Technically, it didn't actually destroy all of Marineford, but I mean, considering the damage that we did see, I think it should not physically be possible for the island to really have been standing at that point. That pretty much sums up the Tremor Fruit. I don't think too many people are going to contest that it's at least in the top 5, especially not as much as I think I'm about to get roasted for this next one. And coming in at number 4, we have the Paw Fruit. I know this one seems slightly underwhelming at first glance, but if you really look at all the shit that we've seen and the amount of speculation that can be made about this fruit, it stands to reason that it's pretty overpowered. And when I say speculation, I'm referring to the ability that he used on Luffy, where he seemingly just completely healed him. He took no damage from the fight against Moria. I'm thinking there might be some kind of side effects, or that can only be used on one person so many times, which is why it's not unbelievably overpowered. But at the very least, for using it one time on Luffy, it was completely ridiculous. I mean, you saw the damage it did to Zoro. That ability isn't even that great though compared to the rest of the shit we're about to get into. Apparently, any attack blocked by the paw on his hand is just completely repelled, no exceptions to the rule. Now, of course, we have not seen what happens if a Haki user hits this, but I'd say there's actually probably a decent chance that it doesn't nullify it. Usually I would just assume that Haki nullifies every devil fruit, but I feel like it would be kind of strange if the Paw Fruit, which is just supposed to be able to block anything, that's like the main idea behind it, couldn't block it just because it has Haki. I mean, pretty much everyone has Haki at this point, so that'd be ridiculous. He is able to use the same ability to repel the air on his palms, which then moves him forward super fast to what looks like most people teleporting. Giant-ass motherfucker like Kuma moving around at what looks like teleportation speed sounds pretty overpowered if you ask me. He can also compress a giant amount of air in between his two palms and then launch that little ball out and detonate it. You probably wouldn't think this would be amazingly powerful, but it was shown pretty much completely annihilating Little Oz, so I'd say it's relatively powerful. And the last and arguably most ridiculous ability is that he can launch anyone to any destination around the world as long as he makes contact with them. It doesn't seem like he's able to directly kill anyone with his ability, but it does completely take them out of the fight, and I'm not completely sure on how it works again, but it seems like there's a good chance that he could send them into a volcano or something. You know, if they're a Devil Fruit user, into the middle of the sea, that would be a giant problem. So that pretty much sums up the Paw Fruit. Has way more abilities than anyone would ever expect, both a lot offensive and defensive abilities. It's honestly just a really useful all-around good fruit. And coming in number 3, we have the Gravity Fruit. And yeah, technically we don't know the real name yet, but I mean, come on, I think it's pretty straightforward. And that couldn't really be any more well said. It really is very straightforward. It's just that straightforwardness happens to make it extremely overpowered. Fujitora has given us quite a ridiculous showing of his manipulation of gravity. He started it all off by putting a 30-foot wide hole in the ground of a casino, which killed like 5 people at least. He put Zoro in what looked like at least a 50-foot deep hole through concrete. We have seen him send in multiple meteors from the sky, and he was able to levitate every single piece of rubble in Dressrosa, the entire country, after the birdcage destroyed it all, which he then was able to float to the destination which he chose and then could just let go and destroy everything below it. Another really important detail to keep in mind is that it seems he is able to do this without really wasting any energy in any way, shape, or form. I'm not sure if this is just because he's an admiral, but I mean, we are talking literally the rubble of an entire country just floating, and he just sits there like nothing's even happening. If the amount that could be levitated was based on the power levels of the user, then I think we would at least see Fujitora, I don't know, looking like he's not just doing nothing. Because what seems like this fruit's ability to have any pleb use it and be extremely effective, I thought that it easily earned the number 3 spot on this list. And coming in number 2, we have the OP fruit. And yes, as the name suggests, it is extremely OP. So this fruit has a crazy amount of abilities, both highly utility-based and highly combat-based, and honestly, I don't even think we've seen about half of the abilities that we're going to see by the end of this series. The majority of abilities this fruit has are all based on the spherical room that Law can create. Law can control the directional motion and velocity of anything or anyone inside of this room he creates. Law's Shamble abilities also offers a lot of potential one-shot kill technique. This ability is so overpowered that in the battle between Dofi and Law, Dofi was always extremely careful to never be caught up in this room, and the few times he was, he got completely destroyed. Radio Knife is also a very overpowered ability, considering it seems to me at least that anyone that gets caught up in this ability is pretty much completely fucked. I don't know why Luffy and Law let Trouble live after Law used his Radio Knife on him, but it seems to me that they could have easily killed him since his body was completely in shambles. Stealing people's heart is obviously also very useful, as it was shown in Punk Hazard, where Law was able to completely screw over his opponent. The strongest combat ability this fruit has is the Gamma Knife. Supposedly, this ability is so powerful that it could even one-shot Dofi, which it would have if Dofi wasn't able to repair his organs from the inside using his Devil Fruit. So let me just put into perspective the power of this ability for you. Dofi gets sent flying about 1,000 feet into the ground in the middle of a downtown, which gets completely upheavaled, and then he falls probably another 1,000 more feet into the ground, and then he gets knocked out. Gets up completely fine later on. So that knocks him out. But this ability could one-shot him. I think this ability speaks for itself, honestly. But that's not the end of it. We have another amazing ability. This ability is actually the one that gave the fruit the nickname, the Ultimate Devil Fruit. The ability for a user to give their own life to give someone of their choice immortality is pretty goddamn ridiculous. It is quite a costly sacrifice, and Law even did say that he has no interest in the ability, but it is a pretty overpowered ability either way. And lastly, the moment you've all been waiting for, the number 1 Paramecia Devil Fruit, the Strig Fruit. Again, this is one of those fruits that doesn't seem that overwhelming upon first glance, but let me just explain a few things to you. First and foremost, the extremely ridiculously overpowered ability Gamma Knife that I was just talking about was completely trumped by one of the many abilities that this fruit has. I am talking, he gets hit by this supposed one-shot kill, lays down for like 2 minutes, and then is just back at full power, easy. Properties and dimensions of the strings that he creates also seem to be pretty much perfect for any situation he's ever been put into. They can be razor sharp to the point of completely annihilating an incoming meteor. They can be thick and sturdy to be used in a spider web-like shield. They can be dense enough to cause an explosion with any terrain that come into contact with. They can be long enough to hit something something 10 miles away. It just never really seems to end what he can do with the most basic functions of his fruit. But he also has plenty of ridiculous advanced abilities as well. If his parasite string hits someone's spine, then he has complete control over their body. He is able to fly anywhere there are clouds nearby, since he is able to attach his string to the clouds. He is able to shoot bullets made out of string out of his fingers. He is able to make a clone of himself which was strong enough to hold off Luffy for around like 30 minutes. So yeah. I mean, if that's not convincing, then I don't think I'd ever really be able to convince you. Keep in mind, we're talking about a fruit with the power to take over an entire country in a matter of hours by controlling hundreds of soldiers and the king himself. That is exactly the kind of shit I'm talking about when I say utility. Thank you very much for watching if you've made it this far. Please try not to completely shit on me in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe if you really enjoyed this video, and have an excellent day.